Good to be together as we look at Jesus' parable of the workers in the vineyard. Perhaps the parable of the prodigal son is the most beloved, perhaps most familiar of Jesus' parables. A close second might be the parable of the talents. My hunch is this parable of the workers in the vineyard might be the most troubling. A landowner goes to the marketplace at 6 o'clock in the morning and makes a contract with some workers to go work in his vineyard, the grape garden, and he promises them to pay a day's pay or a day's work, a denarius. It would be enough for a family then to pretty much have their daily bread, as in, Lord, give us today our daily bread. Not a lot, but in that day a fair working wage, a day's pay for a day's work. You know the story. He goes back to the marketplace, 9 o'clock, noon, 3 o'clock. Each time when he takes on more workers to go and pick the grapes, we don't know if he had a bumper crop that year or whether maybe he was just a generous guy and had some kind of heart for these workers who would not have a day's pay for their daily bread, for their family. We don't know. But each time when he asks those others, he says, come and work in my field and I will pay you what is right. And the real clincher, as you know in the story, is at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, about an hour before quitting time. And that day, the work day was like sun up to sundown, just about 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And they work an hour, and at the end of the day, the landowner gets his foreman to line up the workers and pays them. Maybe it was not a good plan to pay the 1 hour workers first, so that the all-day workers saw that they got a day's pay for an hour's work. And for a few moments they were probably really happy because, wow, if he pays a day's pay for 1 hour, let's see, we work 12 hours, 12 times a day's pay, 12 denarius. Is this a good deal? And you know the story. They got, well, what the landowner promised, a day's pay for a day's work. They're angry. They're upset. Probably not a plan for an economic recovery. Probably not the method that a business owner would use to remunerate workers. I think no union would, in collective bargaining, ever get a deal. Perhaps Jesus was not talking about economics, but maybe Jesus was talking about how we look at life. John Claypool refers to the trap of comparison. Each of these workers, if they only paid attention to what they got, they all were treated pretty well. They worked all day. They had agreed to a day's pay for a day's work. Guess what? They got it. Those who worked less, wow, they got a day's pay for less than a day's work. Each one, in their own way, were treated pretty good. Maybe the 1 hour workers were treated best of all, but they were not given anything lavish. They were given a day's pay, enough for daily bread. John Claypool says that that's a real challenge for us in our life. How do we deal with comparisons? We probably can be fairly content with our lives when we just sort of see what we have. But it's hard when you start comparing with others, because just our new human proclivity is, I don't think a whole lot about people that I maybe have a little bit more than, maybe a little bit, but my natural human tendency is to sort of look over there and see someone who has more. And for me to think, well, you know, what's fair about that? It's an interesting sentence when the landowner says to the complaining workers, the English translation is your eye, well, actually the English translation, it just says, are you envious because I am good. The literal Greek is your eye evil? Does your eye see something evil in what I did is good? The Greek word for evil is poneros, like pornography. And the Greek word here for good is agathos. Know anybody named Agathos? So here it is. How do we look at our lives? Do we pay attention to all the comparisons and sum it up as life is a raw deal? Or do we just think about the life we have, the blessings that come our way, and conclude it's bonus, it's blessing, it's a wonderful gift to have life and to have the blessings we have? Will we live with joy and gratitude, or will we live with a kind of grudging, evil eye, and we see people that seem to do better than we do, and we wonder why we don't? Gracious heart or jealous heart? That's a good decision we need to make.